Hi, this is Pam. Today I'm going to be sharing or talking about the Swank diet and is it helpful for those of us that suffer with multiple sclerosis? If we have not yet met, my name is Pam Bartha and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. Just want to make sure my volume is turned up. There we go. So the topic today is the Dr. Roy Swank low-fat diet. And if we have not met yet before, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 30 years ago. And I still have my original book from Dr. Roy Swank. It's right here. Let me see, I'll put it over this way. So this is a really old book. You can see that I've really, it's been around for a while. And my version of the book is 1977. And I guess the first book that he published was 1959. So it's been around for a long time. And it's still going around. So people are still talking about it and they're still wondering, is this going to be helpful for me or not? It's fairly restrictive. And so we're going to talk today about, is it really helpful? And if there is some benefit to it, what would that be? And if it's really the eating plan that we need to follow. Just want to say hello to Maureen and Lucy and Rudy. Thank you guys for sharing all the hearts and thumbs up and love. Please interact with me. Let me know if you've tried this diet. Let me know if it's helped you in the past. We're going to go into, not into great detail, but into the highlights, the most important parts. So when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, that was back in 1988, I was basically told there was no hope for me, that I would be completely disabled in time. Well, the very first information that I learned about with respect to integrative health was to do with infection. So this was even before the Dr. Roy Swank book that I found. And so I first started to treat infections and that helped me. And then I found his book and I was constantly researching and learning. And I thought, why not give this diet a try? Dr. Roy Swank is a neurologist. I'm not sure if he's still alive. I know that he was just a few years ago. So he's been around for a very long time, lots of research and wisdom, which is awesome. So he was or is a neurologist and a professor, teaching other neurologists, I'm sure. And what he did is he really researched a lot with his patients. And he found 3 clues that are quite interesting. So he discovered that his patient, well, he felt that because with multiple sclerosis, we get this sudden attack, he thought, well, that probably has something to do with the vascular, like our blood veins and arteries, etc. So the vessels in our body. So that was one conclusion that he thought. And then he also thought, or he said that they noticed that with multiple sclerosis, that people that there was a higher incidence of MS in certain geographical areas. And we know, for example, that Canada is a very high rate of multiple sclerosis. And so he was kind of looking more at what are the dietary differences. And he thought, well, people that are living in these higher areas, incidents, they have more animals. So he thought it was the animal fat, that they had a higher amount of animal fat in their diet, and this is what caused the MS. Because there was some research back in that time that suggested if you had a lot of high-fat meals, that it would kind of make your red blood cells kind of stick together, and then you would not be delivering oxygen to different parts of your body, and then your organs would suffer. So this was a long time ago, and probably part of that research really helped us into that low-fat diet, I don't know, 20 years at least. Remember, many of you guys are on a low-fat diet. That was just the thing to do, and we're more obese today than ever before because we realize now that it's not the fat that's the problem, it's the high carbohydrate that might have been with the fat, and that is what made us have the heart issues, etc. So a lot of the research has changed, but back in that day, he had a feeling that it had to do with the saturated fat in certain areas, that they had more of it because maybe they had more dairy and they were living in more rural areas that had more, etc. So he devised this in 1948. He already started to treat his MS patients by putting them on a very low fat diet. So he would basically say you can only have 15 grams of fat from animal fat, so saturated fat, which is about 3 teaspoons, he felt, no more than that in a day. And so there were, I'll talk about the foods that were restricted and foods that were allowed. And then he also said you can have oils. So there are certain oils like olive oil and canola oil and peanut oil and soy oil and all kinds of oils. You can have up to 20 grams of that per day. And he said maximum in a day, you can have 50 grams of fat. So if you had a little less saturated fat, you could have a little bit more oils, but you could never go over the 50 grams of fat per day. So when you think about this, it really changes a lot of the foods that we can eat, right? And so, for example, you would, if following this eating plan, you would have to take out all processed cakes and cookies and potato chips and all of these foods that are processed. They do contain fat, but they also contain sugar. So you're getting rid of a lot of processed foods. You can't have a lot of dairy because you can have 1% milk, but you can't have the sour cream, you can't have the whipping cream, you can't have the butter, you can't have a lot of other dairy products and cheeses, etc. So you're having very low fat dairy. You are really reducing a lot of the processed foods in your diet. So that's healthy, right? And a lot of us with chronic disease, we can't tolerate dairy because of those infections, and I'll talk more about those in a little while. But so this eating plan was relatively healthy. Like you can have a little bit more of the vegetable oils, less of the saturated fat. You could have whole grains, you could have sugar, but because you're cutting out so many other things, you probably wouldn't have as much sugar because you're not going to have all the pastries and the cakes and the cookies and all of those things. So when we just look at plain old diet, like if we were eating a lot of processed carbohydrates, we would have greatly reduced those. So that would make us feel better for those of you that have been following my work, because we're actually the opposite. We like a high fat diet and a low carb diet, but we'll talk more about that later. So just the fact that his eating plan really reduced the processed foods would make anyone feel better. It's just a healthier lifestyle choice for sure. And so foods that he would avoid are the really fatty meats and all the processed foods. And what else? I just wanted to share forbidden. So things like processed meats, like hot dogs and sausages, like all of that kind of stuff, avoiding that. And anything that would be like, even like pastas that are prepared ahead of time with meat sauce and fat. So anything that had fat hidden in it, even chow mein noodles. So there's so many processed foods that have some fat in it. And so when you take all of that out, you're greatly reducing the processed foods. So you could have vegetables, you could have fruit, you could have certain nuts and seeds. Like you had to consider that in the total fat. So you couldn't overeat the nuts and seeds also. So you can see that it's a fairly healthy eating plan. So then we start to wonder, like, is it because of the reduction in fat, or is it because you've reduced the processed foods? So something that I saw today, which I didn't remember seeing this when I bought his book close to 30 years ago, and I read it. All I remember is low-fat diet. But when I read his book today, I saw something so incredibly interesting. So his protocol is not just a diet. And I don't know if this got lost over the years or if they still use this, but I just wanted to share some really profound things. So he shared that following this eating plan was really important, but his patients also had to have a lot of rest, and he did want them to take a mild sedative for several months and up to, let me see here, sedation. He wanted them lightly sedated for 1 to 3 years. Very interesting. Why? Because I teach, and this is just not, I'm not the brainchild behind all of this, but I've just been putting pieces together from amazing researchers and hero doctors. But I've shared in many other videos that MS is an infectious disease and that there are many different types of infections involved. There's a very big part of it that is a parasitic infestation. And even probably before his time, or maybe around the same time, there was a neurologist in Holland, in the Netherlands, that found that giving her patients an antihistamine, which sedated them also, really helped them to manage the multiple sclerosis. It's just like shocking. I'm just like reading this like an hour ago thinking, oh my gosh, that could be one of the reasons why there was another little bit of benefit to this. Because if you have these small nematodes in your central nervous system and bigger parasites in your intestines, and the load that we're dealing with, that we're seeing coming out of our students, then when you sedate us, the MS patient, you are also sedating the parasites, right? And he noticed that people that have MS, his patients, they got easily agitated. And so he really felt it important, and he really said that they were very sensitive to stress. And I can share with you that with my students, when they are just finding me and they're really disabled with MS, that when they have a lot of stress, they might find that their limb just shoots out. Like, these parasites respond to the stress hormones in our body, for sure. And there's other things. There's many other things, like our adrenals are maxed. They a lot of times we're dealing with adrenal fatigue from all of the stress from these parasitic infestations and other infections. But we do know that, and so he made the connection too. This Dr. Maas is the neurologist from Holland, and then Dr. Roy Swank, they both noticed that for Dr. Maas, she thought it was that we had to decrease histamines, but she gave her patients a sedating first-generation antihistamine. Like back in the day, she used Polaramine, and right now we're just using, not during the day. Like, I'm not recommending people should be taking antihistamines for the heck of it, but for helping them to sleep at night. Sometimes they're finding just taking regular strength Benadryl, if they check with their doctor and they're not on any other medications that would interfere, but they're finding it hugely beneficial. And some people take just a regular strength, some people take a half, but that's only if you can't sleep, because it sedates the parasites. So we're finding that sedating, like relaxing us, but relaxing those parasites, is really, really amazingly helpful. So that's crazy that I saw that. And I don't know if they still use that in the treatment. I would assume so. So he said the treatment involved, you have to follow the low-fat diet, you have to do lots of rest, and taking this mild sedative medication for the first 1 to 3 years. He felt that physiotherapy was not a really big deal, that it wasn't necessary. If people found it beneficial, they could. He did not believe in the medications. At that time, there were not a lot of disease-modifying drugs, but he didn't feel that these steroids were really good or helpful, which is awesome. And I think that was it I wanted to share. So those were, besides his diet, those were other really important things. So he really wanted people to rest. He really wanted them to manage their stress. He really wanted to calm their system down, to kind of make them more sedated, which would make the infections that we're dealing with sedated, which would make them easier to treat, for sure. And then with his diet, you're just not quite feeding them as much. So if his diet was like super, super, super effective, trust me, we would all be using it and we would be following it to a T. I tried his eating plan and I didn't notice any difference. I didn't do the sedative part. I did do the antihistamines because I did find out about Dr. Maas. And I found that when I took the antihistamine, like I had such bad insomnia when I was first diagnosed with MS, and in the first few months, I just hardly could sleep. It was like I was just vibrating. And then as I took the antihistamine, for me, this is just for me, I'm not recommending it, but it just helped to settle me down. And then I could sleep, and then I could start to heal more, but I still had to treat the infections. So I personally did not notice really any change. And I just want to share with you that a lot has changed over 30 years. And there's a lot of research that's come out showing that MS is an infectious disease. And that is so important, because when we understand that there is a cause, then everything we do is to treat that cause. So if we have certain infections, it's like, what feeds those infections? It's not fats, it is carbohydrates. So then the actual opposite eating plan seems to be the most helpful for my students, because bacteria, fungi, and parasites thrive on carbohydrates. as the carbohydrates are digested, they're broken down into simple sugars, and that is just the perfect food for these bad microbes. So as we reduce those, we're still eating lots of vegetables, right? But as we reduce those, we're starting to see the inflammation going down a lot more than if we just decreased fat and just got rid of some of the processed carbs. So there are some limitations with his eating plan. So I want to give him credit for decreasing the processed carbs in people's diet, and also for seeing the need to help settle the system down and to rest so that they could recover. And another thumbs up because he just did not feel that the medications were the answer at that time. So that was awesome. But limitations, number one, when you're eating this way, like he didn't really stress having a lot of vegetables and fruit. He said at least, at least 2 servings. So it's easy for people to kind of go, okay, well, I'm having, my sandwich for lunch, and I'm going to have 1 serving of vegetable at night, and I'll have a couple of pieces of fruit during the day. So it's really easy to become deficient in certain vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. So that's a definite problem. So we, with the eating plan, the Live Disease-Free eating plan, we really encourage people to eat a lot of vegetables, especially because of the state of our food and the state of our intestines. Like, we're not digesting our food very well. Most of the food we're buying is very deficient in nutrients. So we're really increasing the vegetables that we're eating. Really important. He did some studies, and his studies, the problem with the studies is he didn't use controls. So normally when you do a study, it's like you have a group of people that are following the diet and a group of people that are not following the diet, and you can compare it. And then with his studies, he also found that he had a high drop-off rate. So people, because it was a strict diet, a lot of them didn't want to follow it, and so we had a lot of people dropping off. And then, as I mentioned, a problem with it could be that, we need to make sure we're getting enough nutrients for sure. So those would be the biggest problems with it. But the key is that we have to first understand, is it possible to recover from multiple sclerosis? Is it possible? And the answer is yes, it is totally possible. And the only way we can is we have to take all of our efforts, like whoever we're working with, whatever integrative practitioner, whatever diet, whatever exercise, whatever we're doing, we have to focus it all in on the cause. And the cause is chronic silent infections in the body. And I have lots of videos on that. I've got a wonderful page where I've put just a sample of the studies that prove this. That would be on livediseasefree.com, livediseasefree.com/MS-infections. MS-infections. When you look through that, you'll see that there is so much evidence of fungal overgrowth. There's so much evidence of these, we call them the Lyme disease or vector-borne infections associated with Lyme. And you'll see there are many studies also of parasites. And the big missing piece of the puzzle that we've realized in the last 2 years is what a burden the parasites are in our students that are recovering from MS and all chronic disease. It's like the sicker we are, the more infested we are, and they have to be treated equally, especially if we're suffering with these small parasitic nematodes, which are small worms in our central nervous system. And the very, very latest research that I've been coming across is really understanding how, like, if we've had these nematodes for years, they are very deep-rooted in our body. They're finding, Dr. Alan McDonald found many of them, lots, in every person that he tested that had died from MS, especially in the spinal fluid. And so we're starting to really understand the treatments, the limitations, and like one might stop them from reproducing, another one might kill them, but that one might not cross the blood-brain barrier. And so when I've been studying like even how they're treating these little microfilarial worms, the nematodes, that it's like, it's not just you can pop a pill and kill them and get them out of your body, unfortunately. One exciting thing is that these little worms, they require bacteria to live, to carry out their life cycle. So what we're starting to do now, and this is just starting, is to, for people that have the symptoms of this, it's called cerebral spinal nematodiasis, if they have symptoms of that, is to use one treatment for the parasites, for the worms, and another one for the bacteria that they need to live off of. And the combination of the two, I'm really quite excited as that it will probably speed up the recovery and really help more advanced cases. And again, in recovery, it's layering. It's like using the antiparasitic treatments and then layering on herbs and layering on oxidizing therapy and possibly light therapy and frequency therapy, but just using different things in our arsenal. And the more we follow the right eating plan so that we're not feeding them. So the Roy Swank diet is better than the North American diet, absolutely. But is it good enough to make our treatment of the parasites and bacteria and fungus successful? No, it's not. I know that because I've worked with over 600 students in the Live Disease-Free system, and I know it works. And there's this sweet spot. It's like if you are below 50 grams of carbs per day, not fat, but if you're below 50 grams of carbs per day, we see a really huge shift in symptoms. And the sweet spot seems to be all the way down to 35 to 40 grams of carbs. That is the sweet spot. So I'm going to go to your questions, see if you guys have any questions for me. But in summary, the Dr. Roy Swank low-fat diet for multiple sclerosis is better than the North American diet. It's cleaning up a lot of the processed foods. I think that that part is beneficial, but probably other parts of his plan where he expects them to rest a lot and he's sedating them and he doesn't want them to do, a lot of strenuous work or exercise. All of that is equally helping them, but it's not giving them their life back. And in order to get your life back, you have to treat these infections. Absolutely. And that's what we do in the Live Disease-Free system. Before I go to questions, I just want to tell you that next Wednesday, and I believe that is September the 11th. I'm just going to double check. I'm pretty sure it is September the 11th. Yes, that is when I am going to be hosting my it's only 3 times a year. It is my live masterclass, How to Recover from Multiple Sclerosis. That'll be September. So I won't be here. Okay, normally I do Facebook Lives on Wednesdays, but I won't be here because I'll be doing this live workshop. And I'm going to be going into a lot more detail about the infections, about the steps we take to recovery. I'll be sharing a lot of successes of the Wellness Champions. So make sure to join me there, especially if you've never heard about this before. You can ask questions at the end, which is really cool. So that'll be fun. All right, so I'm going to just go to your questions here, see if you have any for me. All right. Thank you, Danielle, for posting it. So if you want to find out how to join me on my masterclass live training next Wednesday, just click on the link there and then you can just register so that you can hold your spot. We have hundreds of people that join. I think the last few times it's been over 2,000 people that have registered for it. So I'm excited to share lots of amazing stuff with you. Hi, Victor. You've learned so much. You're so very welcome. Thank you for your kind words. I hope that you're healthy. If you're not, I hope you reach out to me. Stephanie, hello. Hi, Dean. You've tried everything to watch and you cannot. Thanks anyways. Sorry, I don't know what that means. Watch this or watch my masterclass training. The masterclass training will be next Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific, and you can find the link there in the feed. It'll be above the video and it'll be in the feed below. Hi, Mary Lou, and hi, Melissa, and hi, Sophia. Thank you guys for all your hearts and your thumbs up. Ramonda, your doctor told you all these things. So I'm not sure if you're well, Ramonda, but I really hope that you are well. That would be great. Very knowledgeable. Tim, if your doctor told you all these things, he or she is an amazing doctor, because not a lot of practitioners know about the parasites yet. Hi, Tim. Hopefully you're getting in. Hi, Dean. So, Dean, it won't play at all and no sound either. I'm really sorry if you're not. There might be a couple of people where the Facebook Live is not working. Technology is great when it works. If it is not, there's always a replay. So you can always listen to the replay after. Hi, Adrian. Hi, Carlos. Hi, Dean. There will be a replay. Hi, Rob. We avoid coconut milk, Rob, just because our eating plan is fairly strict too. As far as the carbs, our eating plan is very satisfying because fats are very satisfying. So we don't have a ton of, like, we don't have any hydrogenated fats. That was another good thing that Dr. Swank recommended, is no margarine, no hydrogenated, where they take vegetable oils and they heat it up and they denature it. And that is not good for us. So we're having like oils that are and even fats that are like extra virgin, cold pressed, not processed, heated, etc. But as far as the carbs, it's quite challenging to keep the carbs down to 35 to 40. It makes a huge difference in symptoms. So coconut milk is one of those things that it's going to give you a few more carbs, and there's not a lot of nutrition behind it. So we avoid that for sure, because we want to get our carbs from really nutritious vegetables that give us more nutrition. Hey, Graham, sorry. I've been trying to reach you. We've been trying to connect, super busy. Hi, Danielle and Kelly. Hi, Helen. Hi, Tim. Not a lot of questions. Have any of you guys tried the Dr. Roy Swank diet? I haven't seen anyone here. Oh, you had that book as well. That was your first help book. Did you find it helpful, Maureen? I didn't at all. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Jackie Kress and Jackie Delaney. Hi, Anthony. Paula, I don't see any more questions. Hi, Neva and Rob. I'm heading to a family wedding this weekend. It's going to be so much fun. All right, so that's it. So if you are at the place where you're like, what, Pam, infections? I've never heard this before. Please watch some of my videos. We have Facebook and we have YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube. It's called Live Disease Free. I've got at least 70 videos in there, and just pick and choose the topics you need to learn about. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more, or be notified when we have these trainings coming out regularly. And then also on Facebook, it is Live Disease Free. You can watch all the replays. If Facebook doesn't work for you one day, you can listen to the replays there because it's always recorded. But if you're at that place, you're like, thanks for all the free stuff, Pam, and I get it, and I've been changing my diet, and I've been starting to feel a little better, but I know I need to treat these infections, and I'm so ready. Then make sure to watch my free training. It is live next Wednesday, September the 11th. Join us. Get your questions answered. Become a wellness champion. Treat those infections and get on with your life. It's so worth it. It is so amazing. And I'm going to be sharing the steps we take to recover. I'm going to be sharing lots of success stories and the rationale behind it, the research. It'll be really, really exciting. And like I said, I only do these 3 times a year, this training. So this will be my last one for this year. And then it is pinned. The link to join us is pinned there. Hi, Christine. I think that's it for the questions. So it's Doronda. You've never heard about the parasites. You were diagnosed 16 years and getting worse. So please look into it. I have, like, find me on YouTube, Facebook, and look for, I've done a 5 or 6 part series. I've talked several times about parasites. So just look for parasite videos for myself. It is really shocking. They're like, in my students, they're passing lots and lots of large parasites. They're feeling a lot better for it. That's not probably what's causing the vast majority of their neurological symptoms. Those are usually things like those small nematode worms. And you'll be able to find Dr. Alan McDonald's research on that page. Remember, livediseasefree.com/MS-infections, MS-infections. livediseasefree.com/MS-infections. On that page, if you go down to the parasite part, you'll see Dr. Alan McDonald's lecture. About 6 minutes into the lecture, he starts to talk about these little worms that he found in every single MS patient. Really, really shocking. This is groundbreaking. And we're finding that the treatments that are used to treat those worms it's like huge for our students. It's really, really huge as far as helping them to recover so much quicker. What about Kerry Good Butter? I don't know what that is, Paula. In our eating plan, in the Live Disease-Free eating plan, if it is butter, you can have it. In the Dr. Roy Swank eating plan, you can't have butter. Or you can only have 3 teaspoons of saturated fat in a day. So if you had a teaspoon of that, then you would not be able to eat as much protein, like animal protein, because that would because there's animal fat in the protein, animal protein. So, but in the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan, you can have the butter, no problem. Hi, Jackie. So you're new to the MS community. One little thing I just want to say to you, Jackie, is that early, and I'm going to be talking about this, so next week I will be doing my live masterclass training. Make sure to join in and listen to this. Early intervention is so important. My students that catch the multiple sclerosis right away within the first few months or year without long-term disability, they can treat these infections quicker. They still have to do the work, they still have to take the steps, but it is definitely easier to treat the infections as soon as possible. The sooner you treat the infections, it still works, but the easier it is to treat them and the more success we have. So because I learned early on about these infections, I've been able to live MS-free for 30 years. Had I not known about them, I would not have. And one other thing too, I just wanted to share, you guys may have heard about the McDougall low-fat diet. So that's similar to the Dr. Roy Swank diet, but it's a little more restrictive in that it's taking out all animal product or protein. So there's no eggs and no animal protein, etc., and taking out all the oils. And they found no difference with MS symptoms. They found that they had a little more energy, but they found that they still had the MS. And this all makes sense because MS is caused by infections, and whatever's feeding the infections, which is the carbs, if you keep feeding that to them, you're not going to notice any difference. So I hope that helps you there too. So the big thing is, Jackie, is watch my masterclass training next week and make sure to start reading over watch my videos, go over that MS-infections on our website, Live Disease Free, learn about the infections, treat them right away, and then close this chapter of your life and get on with your life. And that's what I was able to do. And then maybe you can help others and bless others. Hi, Ronnie, and I think that is it. So I'm going to let you guys go. If there's no other questions that I can see, let's just check here because sometimes I miss them. So I don't see that a lot of you have used Dr. Roy Swank's diet. Yeah, the only one was Maureen. Interesting. Because we're still talking about it out in the Mary Gerber, secondary progressive MS, doctor wants you to start on chemotherapy next week. That's up to you. I personally wouldn't do chemotherapy, but the key is you've got to treat infection, right? So chemotherapy is not going to treat infection. That drug is going to wipe out your B cells. Your B cells are a division of your immune system. You need those B cells to protect you from other infections. So when you wipe them out, then you end up with a much higher risk of cancer. So I'm not a medically trained doctor. I can't give you advice. I'm just giving you information so that you can make up your own mind with that. So the key is that if you take an immune suppressive drug that's wiping out your B cells, you can honestly expect more health issues in the future, and it's not going to stop the MS. That's the problem. It's not going to, because your B cells are not the problem. You very, very likely have parasitic worms in your central nervous system. That's what the evidence shows. Lyme disease, the Lyme disease infections, and that's what we do is treat. So if you do that drug route, just be warned, I don't think you'll be very happy with it. Hi, Adriana. Hi, Helen. I think that's it. Yes, I think that's it. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you, for those of you that are going to join me on Wednesday next week. It'll be the last masterclass training for the year, and that'll be Live Disease Free. Sorry, not Live Disease Free. The link is in this feed or above the video, and I'll be excited to answer your questions there. Take care. Bye-bye for now.